Hello, and welcome to this edition of Finance and Technology Insights with Eric and Brian. I'm Brian Williams from Northshire Consulting, and Eric Buhrendorf is here, my co-host from EVERNET. What's going on, Eric?
Hello, my friend. Happy episode 30. Can you believe we're at episode 30 already?
No, because I thought we were at 29 because we doubled up on 28. So no, I can't believe we're at number 30.
That means if we're doing a weekly show, give or take, I mean, we're on like the back half of a whole year.
Yeah, we're getting there, right? I mean, once it's September, and then we started like mid-December or something, right?
Yeah. And before we start recording, we did a little housekeeping. It's kind of cool to see like a library of content. It feels significant.
It does, yeah. And the view count is starting to trickle up there a little bit. And yeah, I mean, YouTube does really like to see the consistency. So
you pointed out we had 19 views last week, which is a significant uptick from our typical viewership. So that's fun. My team on the EVERNET side of my company is promoting the videos at this point, at least in our social.
Yes.
Yep. I don't know if that's a contributing factor or if the algorithm's picking us up.
Yeah, it's probably a little bit of both. I know you can go into the studio and see the sources, so where people are clicking over from. So if we get a lot of clicks from LinkedIn or from Facebook, we know they're probably from us. If it's organic through search or whatever, then it's through YouTube. So I guess that's something for us to check out later.
Let's do a little housekeeping. So for the viewers watching and listening, you're watching Finance and Technology Insights. We are a YouTube channel and a podcast. Are you still ripping the podcast?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
You are. Yeah. So we're fine. You can listen to our radio voices on your favorite podcast app if you want. And we are viewable on YouTube, and we do have a Facebook page that we are using as our kind of home base, give or take. Right now, we publish some news articles there, and we'll talk about that in the latter half of the show. If you haven't already liked the video, I guess maybe we haven't done anything for you to like yet, but if you want to subscribe, if you haven't already subscribed, do that and hit the bell so we can get some more viewers and views. What's going on in your world personally?
Well, I would say, of course, we've done something for them to like, right? I mean, we showed up. I mean, and we're doing this for them. So
hey, showing up is just half the problem, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So we were talking about it briefly before we came on, that it's sort of back to school day, right? So you did some back to school with the kids. My wife is a teacher, so she went back to school herself on Thursday, and today was her first day with her kids.
So you've been back to normal. How was Friday? Let's say Friday and yesterday. Was it like when the train was late and you're like, that was what you noticed? It was.
Yeah, yesterday was good. I had a little bit of carryover stuff from the weekend, so it was still a little bit of, a lot of work, but also a lot of home stuff too. Today it's just been a lot of work, and my morning was kind of jam packed. So yeah, it does kind of feel different. It does kind of feel like a back to business, like, all right, back at it, no excuses, no, I'm back to like eating at my desk and watching stuff rather than having lunch with the family or whatever. But we do, my son gets up at 6 and get him ready, and they both leave at 6:30. So my day pretty much starts when they leave, and then it sort of tails off, 3 to 4. I'm sort of on call. I'm a little more active, but I'm available if they need me. And then 4 to 5 is just kind of like on call. So it could be work. It could be, throwing the football around. So
in our household, we call that monitoring. Me and my wife, I'm a morning person, so I really do like to get up, 6 a.m. and start the grind real early. And my day tapers off 3, 4, 5 o'clock. The kids, will get home at 3:20, something like that. I do pick up, I do drop off, I do pick up, but when the kids come home and stuff like that, I'm effectively monitoring email from my mobile at that point. I did put a standing desk in our living room with a laptop, so I can monitor from a laptop too, and kind of keep things moving. But yeah, it's so you saw me on social this morning. The girls had a open house, is what they call it,
Okay.
this morning. So basically, an opportunity for the kids to see the classroom, see their locker, meet their teachers. Make eye contact with new faces and things. A soft start. It's not even a
Mhm.
start, right? It's just soft exposure. A lot of fun, like really popular. I mean, the parking lots were completely packed. The halls were packed with one or more parents per kid. I enjoy these moments. I have friends in the school, parent friends, and even my wife to some extent, like who give this the extra stuff the eye roll.
Mhm.
But I'm really into it. I don't know. I don't know if we talked about it, but when I was a kid, my dad was a construction worker, so he was out the door at 5 a.m. He did
Mhm.
not participate in anything that happened at school. My mom, single mom, before she passed away, she did what she could, but not a lot of time in the classroom. So, I remember, growing up through the years, the kids who did have their parents frequently in the classroom, I don't know if it was just cool. They had, not that they had cachet and it was a popularity contest, but it was always like, man, I wish my dad or my mom was here, like, dishing cupcakes or helping with the class. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I just try to be that for the girls.
Yeah, that's really interesting perspective. I was not the exact opposite, but I would actually probably be more likely to be the dork that ends up with like two parents at these events and be like, "Oh my god." It's like most of the moms or dads would feel like they're dragging into this and I'm like, my parents are up in like the front of the classroom. It's like, "Oh my god, what are they
So
going to
yeah,
do?"
but some kids had cool parents. Right?
Right,
That
that
like
wasn't me, but
you're like
yeah.
high-fiving some kid's dad who was like always putzing around the school. Yes, there were those other parents, like the parents who were like authoritative,
Mhm.
that were less cool, and there's a balance. So I literally, I wish I had it on just to show, but I'm repping the girls. This is
Hey,
the
there you go.
girls' school, which public service officers will say this is dangerous for me to share all this information about my family, but
Nah.
it's okay. We have guns. But I have a shirt that says like "Cool Dad," hashtag Cool Dad, and another one that says like hashtag Girl Dad. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
there you
like,
go.
I don't know. I just lean into it. I have a lot of fun. Plus, I chaperone at like field day. I did field day in
Mm.
June, which was hilarious. And as long as the kids are smiling and high fiving, like I'm into it. But if they're like, if my daughters are like, "Who, you got to go, you got to stop
Yeah.
doing this."
Yeah, and that age is coming for sure. It's
Yeah, and with our 9-year-old, I think it's, we think it's there, but then like at field day, like she was so thrilled to have me there.
yeah.
So like she's kind of like in between, like, Dad, don't overdo it, and then I
Mhm.
try to read that, and I try not to destroy her social future.
Right.
Um, so that's, yeah, I don't know if you can see me glowing, but this is a big time of year for me because I made the very conscious decision over the last 6 or more years to kind of put everything I have into the kids and their upbringing and stuff like that. And I took a
Yeah.
lot of time off professionally to take care of the kids. I don't want to say I
Mhm.
was a stay-at-home dad, but I was a stay-at-home dad
Yeah.
basically. And I worked around that, and so like, um, pre-COVID, I was this excited on the eve of the fall because before COVID came through the summer, and in the first COVID summer, we didn't really know this was going to be a 3-year long thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? So I was like, okay, this thing's going around. And then I remember, like, even in that summer, like the bubble was starting to go down, and we're like, yay, we're going back to school. That was our youngest's pre-K year,
Mm.
and that was supposed to be it was supposed to be a 3-year work hiatus. You know what I mean? um, and then COVID.
Sure.
So that was 2 years of continued sacrifice, being home with the kids. And and last year, in large part, it was a normal year. That was our youngest kindergarten year.
Mm.
um, but still, like, like our youngest lost 10 days of school in April last year
Oh my goodness.
because the protocol was there was a COVID exposure, so she was out for a
Mhm.
week, and then she got COVID, so then she was out for another week. I mean, so um, today, tomorrow will feel like my first day back in 6 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big deal for sure. Yeah, I mean, we were pretty lucky with our daycare was pretty much open the whole time. Really, only like sort of towards the end here did they have some, you know, full closures like of the facility. And I mean, Luke tested positive a couple times, but never
Yeah, you
had
guys
any
did good. I
symptoms.
remember.
So yeah, he just kind of muscled through that, and so he's got another year there, and then he'll be in kindergarten next fall. So, but yeah, he'll be ready for it. I mean, I feel bad for it's going to be interesting. Kindergarten's going to be interesting because he's going to be in there with a lot of kids who just haven't been around kids. You know,
Right.
people who didn't, you know, either take their kids to usually if you're at home, you're still trying to get them out to do different activities so they're around kids. But I know a lot of parents who've just like, I mean,
So
aside from family,
his generation or his age is actually marked by COVID almost.
sure, yeah.
Wow. So, geez, you think they're going to be just a bunch of antisocial ants, just
Well,
like
I just think the spectrum's gonna be extremely wide because I mean, he's been at full day, you know, daycare since, I don't
so
know,
he's
like
well
4 weeks
socialized.
old or whatever, you know? So, so he's always been around kids, and even in the summer when my wife is off, he still goes 3 days a week, you know, just to keep that connection and stuff. So, but you put him in a room with somebody who's never been around kids before,
Right.
it's gonna be interesting. And
Yeah,
he's
and we just at open house the room was packed full of parents and kids. It was hot, it was like body heat activated, and there were a couple people with masks on.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, yeah.
So
Yep. Yeah,
interesting.
it is
Um,
interesting.
yeah, either way, it's exciting. It does finally feel like we're crawling out of this COVID
Mhm.
thing. Maybe walking. I'll say we're walking out of this COVID thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, in the aftermath of it, so we mentioned this before too, but so I'm on this nonprofit in town. It's called the Early Childhood Collaborative of Southington, which is where we live, and we're handling a lot of the stuff like 0 to 5, like we coordinate stuff in the town and a lot of different towns. So there's a Connecticut collaborative, and a lot of towns have these type of organizations, but we're going through a mini sort of baby boom. So in Southington, we average around 370 kids. 2021, it was like 430, I think, you know, which is a pretty sizable gain. People are at home, they've got nothing better to do, so they make kids. And so you're putting these people into a system that has had difficulty retaining and recruiting employees, and now you're adding another 30, 40 kids into the system. I mean, there's just no room for them. So it's like the town pages on Facebook and stuff. I cringe, and you see these posts that are like, hey, we're going back to all my kids are going back to school, and I have a 3 month old, I need a daycare. What are the good daycares in town? Like, you'll see like people treating it like it's a pizza place or something. Like, who's the good pizza place? And they're like, who are the good daycares in town? And we kind of like will our executive director is very good, and she'll respond quickly, but it's kind of like, doesn't matter who's good, like you're looking for who's got slots, and you may not find something, you
Ugh,
know, there.
yeah.
And you know, if it's your first kid or whatever, you're not, it might not even never cross your mind, and you just think that there's daycares all over the place, and I'm going to pick the best one. And it's like, yeah, no, there's no slots, you know, and
Yeah.
people are thinking that it's like a week, like, oh, next week my kid's going to school, who do you guys recommend? Yeah, no,
You
that's not a thing.
you are you and Lauren thinking about is Lauren, right, your wife?
Yes,
Are
yeah.
you guys thinking of about a number 2, or are you guys one and done, you think?
Probably one and done. I'd probably
One and
say
done.
80% there. Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
I'm like I love kids. I love being a dad and stuff, and I would have had 4, but like now after this, I'm like I almost am very confident that like we're done. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine going back to like the newborn routine and childcare, and like I said, I sacrificed a lot professionally
Yeah.
to be home with them, but it's like the youngest is in first grade, and we're only looking forward.
Yeah. I mean, it is a lot. And there is an issue with replacement. I mean, you've got countries who are in a real big child deficit because they're not replacing their population.
Mm.
And you've got some concern even in this country about that. And even on the what the right way to say it, but basically, good, well-intentioned parents are having fewer kids than maybe people who are less prepared
I
to
mean,
be
thankfully,
parents.
Nick Cannon and Elon are taking care of, picking up the slack for us. But
Well, it's funny because he's been pretty vocal about that, even over the last week or so. His concerns about population decline. It seems like
yeah,
when we were in school, there was like, oh, the Earth's going to get too overcrowded and overpopulation, and like that's not even a factor anymore.
I've
Like the
my
bigger
father lives
number,
with me, and I hear it still weekly how the world, the country's overpopulated, and it's gonna be our collapse. In fact, I don't want to skip over our. Let's keep deferring our what's new in
yeah,
Northshire and EVERNET. We'll get there,
sure.
but just so we can stay on this vein. Um, oh God, it jumped right out of my head.
Yeah,
Um,
the numbers don't really bear that out, though. The idea of overpopulation, though, that's not
y-
really, you
right.
know.
Well, that's what Elon's calculus is, that like it just doesn't support that. Have you ever flown across the country and looked out the window? I mean,
Yes.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of land out there.
Hmm.
There's a
Yep.
lot of land, and I try to tell my dad, there's a lot of land. And yes, like the megatropolis that they call like DC to Boston and
Hmm.
Philly and Baltimore and New York in between, like it's gross. Like I get it. Like that, the armpit of the
Yeah.
U.S. is like it's gross, but still, there's a lot of land.
Hmm.
I was just thinking, and this kind of ties in because we are a finance and technology
Yeah,
show.
sure.
We'll talk about finance, but kind of a lead into the finance thing. I read an article. I don't know if I pinned it on our Facebook group or not, but Japan is one of the ones facing a
Mhm.
replacement. What do they call it? A replacement.
Yeah, just replacing their population.
Yeah,
Yeah,
population replacement.
yeah,
And interesting article I read. I hope I did pin it, and we see it when we get to the news today. But where are you on the reality that Mark? I was trolling the American populace in general, when like when the market was downturning. Right, it was a
mhm,
significant upturn during COVID. 2022 or 2020 had a significant up market. Right, it was a bull market, I guess they'd say.
yeah,
And then there was a pretty sharp down, and then I think it's recovered, or it's on a recover, or it's flat or whatever. Um, but like the last 100 years, the American stock market has been an upward trajectory, right?
yeah, sure,
I mean, that's a
absolutely.
pretty safe general statement.
Yeah,
Um, it's almost like American, and you know how short Americans' memories are, or humans' memories are. But like, this is why I troll. Like when I think I was trolling maybe somebody in your 401k group or something. But like, markets go up and they go down.
hmm,
And it was interesting. I read an article today that Japan's market has actually been in a consistent decline since what, 92 or the
yeah,
early 90s.
hmm,
And they actually have they have a period of time where they call it the lost generation or the lost decade or something.
right.
you know
Yep.
and I thought that was so interesting and telling, because like, watching the U.S. stock market climb from 2020 during a pandemic was like, I mean, I'm old enough now to live through the 2008 bubble. I was not really activated. You're a couple years older than me, but like I heard the .com bubble, but I didn't
Sure.
really I wasn't old enough to understand the context really of that, except for the
Yeah.
headline. But I don't know. Can you speak to that? Like the
Yeah. I mean,
markets going up and down as a natural.
yeah, and I think you have to separate the U.S. market from the global market, and I think it's one of those things when you see like things economically or even like politically or militarily, it's like, man, this might be a bad neighborhood, and our house might be beat up a little bit, but it's still the best house in whatever neighborhood that we're in. The shining house on the hill type of thing, and I think that's true for markets. Um, you've had a lot of the um, pundits and market predictors and whatever say US is run its course. You got to go overseas. We're at peak US, And every time somebody says that, something happens in the overseas market. Whenever there's any down period, like so far this year, it's like everybody's down more than the US, and then when it comes back up, we're as strong, if not stronger. Like this is the home, whether you like it or not. It's
So
where it's at.
in my personally trained experience, right, with my untrained, you're the economics expert over me, but in my kind of casual experience, it seems like there's two major factors that keep our market continuing to climb, and that is one, where the world's base currency
Mhm.
is that an accurate
Yep,
statement?
absolutely.
So everything's measured against the United States dollar.
Mhm.
And then the second thing is this an accurate statement? The countries over the history of human history, the countries or societies or civilizations that had the technology or continued to innovate technology continued to be the growing markets. Is that an
Right.
accurate statement?
Yep, yep, and I think that's something to that. I think another interesting perspective is new construction is easier than fixing old things sometimes. So how many times you see them, knock down a Rite Aid to put up a CVS, and the old timers will be like, "What are they doing? That was a perfectly good building." And it's like, yeah, that doesn't work anymore. It's like they're just gonna bulldoze it. They're gonna come in with their blueprints. They're gonna build the new CVS in like 5 minutes. But from a long, super long view, we're still the new kids on the block, right? I mean, we've only been around, a couple hundred years, and so we've been able to we're the startup from a country perspective.
But I
Um,
mean, if you use that measure of like the two factors where the base currency and where today the technology, our major export is technology. I don't know if that's an accurate statement, or close to it, but
the
our
intellectual property behind it, probably not the physical
yeah,
goods
right,
behind
okay,
it, but
right, not the physical good, but the IP, right?
sure.
We're the leading source of IP. I don't know where you're sitting, but from where I'm sitting, the base currency, I feel like that could change. I mean, China is not an insignificant market. I mean,
Yeah,
it,
they have a demographics issue too. So they've got some problems there. They had that one child limit for a long time. They've got a aging population, which eventually becomes a dying population. Um, and I think people are at the end of the day, people are always going to be driven by money. And if you're creating the motives and incentives aren't there in China, because you might create the next biggest whatever, and then the government will just take it away and say, yeah, you're not going to get wealthy off that. We're taking it. So I don't think there's ever going to be that same sort of personal drive from the bottom up that can compete on a technological level, in my opinion.
Interesting. Yeah, I used to think that from an ideological standpoint, but from what I'm watching and observing, I watch a lot of a lot of YouTubers that are actually in China, covering China on the technology front, and there is a strong sense of patriotism running through
Hmm.
China right now. I mean, their middle class is coming up. It has come
Yeah.
up. You know what I mean? So it's just I mean, it's just interesting to see that, like, Japan was a huge economy in the
Hmm.
60s, 70s, 80s with their cars and their electronics, and then that kind of regressed, and then China's coming up, and it's complete market. I mean, it's market speculation, but it's like, from where I'm looking, I'm like, wow, like the world might just it's conceivable that maybe China's economic output and their technology output can rivals the United States. I mean, it would be um, foolish. What is there's a how many expressions that say like the unprepared caught flat-footed? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That or they hit you right where you think you're the strongest, or
Hmm.
whatever, however you want to say. It's uh, and I'm just only kind of tossing that in the ring
Right.
for us
Yeah.
to
Being the
weigh.
hunted one is no fun, right?
Yeah, so I
Mm.
don't know. It's interesting. I mean, our market has not gone down in 100 years, but the article that I read said, like, no, markets do go down. They go down over long terms. They go down over short terms. They go up. They go down. It's like 3 generations of Americans believe that if you invest in the stock market, it's a guaranteed up.
Yes.
My kin will be taken care of if I just put 20% of my earnings into the market. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not necessarily true. Not
Well,
guaranteed.
and the other big thing is people don't realize that the bond market like dwarfs the stock market. The bond market is so much bigger than the stock market in terms of assets between the government bonds and corporate bonds. And you've been in a situation where we've had declining interest rates for 40 years, and declining interest rates will help bond prices, and people are assuming that they're going to get a certain level rate of return above what the interest rate is of the bond, which mathematically can't continue forever. It doesn't make sense. So, people who are the classic 60-40 stock to bond, that 40 that was bond, you're looking at interest rates, although bond rates have come up a little bit, but you're looking at a significant portion of your portfolio that might not do anything, from this based on the old models. So I think that's the part that the stock market could do what it's going to do, but people who have been counting on the bond market to perform a certain way and to fill a specific slot in their portfolio might not get that going forward. So
Interesting. All right, let's circle back. You want to talk about our businesses?
Yeah, sure, we can do that. I'll start with I love that. From a content perspective, we have a session we're doing with a local business attorney. So we're going to talk about some business formation stuff, and we're going to get into the finance and that kind of stuff. So put that out on YouTube, and maybe slice up some clips and let her promote some of that as well. That should be pretty good. And then I don't have any authors coming up, I don't think, because I'd like to go and do another round of invites for that, because I really do enjoy those. We do have we're doing a interview with a guy that runs a travel ETF, and there's a whole cottage industry around these, not just the very specific ETFs or exchange traded funds that invest in a basket of stocks, and they're getting more specific over time. And so this one is not just travel, but specifically hotels. So the ticker is BEDZ. So there's there's a whole, all these Twitter things about these different, the symbols that these ETFs trade in. And some of them are pretty funny. I get a kick out of following them, and the new ones that come out, and sometimes you can't tell if somebody's making a joke or not. Or I follow some ETF specialists, and they'll put some out, and you'll be like, "Oh, is he just joking around?" But there is an agriculture ETF, and the ticker symbol is MOO for Moo. So there's some pretty good ones out there. So that'll be a good one, because we're going to cover a lot of the travel industry type stuff. A little bit from an investment standpoint. Your regular, John Q. Public isn't going to go out and invest specifically I'm going to put 20% of my portfolio in hotels, but for people who like to have a little bit extra on the side to kind of go with thematic investing or something along those lines. But I think it'll be good just to get a recap of the overall travel industry with everything that's happened, obviously, over the last couple of years, and what changes are temporary and coming off, what changes are permanent. I'm curious, as much from a service standpoint as from an investor standpoint, certain things in the travel industry that we got used to having got taken away from us. And I feel like as you're traveling, they've not returned, and you're like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? During COVID, there was we're not going to clean your room tonight for COVID protocol unless you really ask. So call down to the desk if you want your room cleaned every night, So now it's all right, well, we're kind of out of that. Why are we still getting these messages where we have to request for them to come in to do something that we've become accustomed to? So
don't even get me started. There's a particular restaurant in the center of town that my girls love going to, but the proprietor has closed off the bathrooms and said bathrooms unavailable due to COVID.
Yeah.
And I just grumble, I just grumble about that so much, because it's so inappropriate.
Yeah. Well, all he needs is some youngster to do something on his floor, and then he'll open the bathrooms right back up again. Not
Maybe.
volunteering anyone or suggesting, but that would probably do the trick.
Yeah. So,
So yeah, that should
okay.
be pretty interesting. Labor Day to Thanksgiving is like prime 401k season. So for existing plans, reviewing their stuff for the end of the year and getting through like some of the state mandates. From a newsworthy perspective, California with their Cal Savers program, Governor Newsom signed into requiring every business basically that has an employee. So once you hire your first employee, you're going to have a retirement plan. So their threshold was 5, same as Connecticut, and now they're all the way down to 1. And I think that's for January might even be out to 2025, if not 2024. But so that's, everybody copies California on that kind of stuff. So probably something that'll come down the line in Connecticut. We're a little bit behind them. But 25, 26 might be something that we'll see here. So all the states are sort of rolling these out to various successes or failures, but it's definitely coming. I think probably the states will be better handling this than the federal level, since they've already done so much of it. So that'll just be interesting to see how that plays out.
So are you getting a little heavier with your send finger on your email campaigns?
Well, so I'm going to be so it's a monthly limit on my service. So I exhausted it for August. I could bump up a little bit, but
Because you had a pretty good performance. I mean, you had some meetings that went out as a result of
did.
your
Yep.
mailings, right?
Yeah, and I still consider some of them prospects. So I think some of those will come on board. So I'll stay away from the first or second, but probably maybe Tuesday of next week we'll do
Yeah.
a marketing campaign. So I usually do my client newsletter usually on the second, give a day for like the market numbers to digest or whatever, and put together the client newsletter on. So that would be Friday. And then
Did you make Angry Pants a client, or did you make contact with her, or do you want to talk about that?
Yes, did I talk about that last week or
I
not?
don't remember.
I forgot where we left off. Yeah, I did an email list, and it was a list of public information from the state of registered businesses. And my email actually wasn't even that salesy. It was more information, all of anything else. Just basically said, hey, here are the deadlines. You've got a business registered in the state. Here's a link to the state website. And then, if you want to book a time with an advisor here. This woman emailed me back, like, I forgot what her phrase was, but something like, people like you are the scum of the earth. I don't think it was that harsh. That must have been somebody else that emailed me that. But so it was something along those lines. And I was like, and I was
You
talking
took
to
the
you
high
actually
road,
at the time.
which I'm proud of you. Although, I mean, you're a high road kind of guy, right?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I wasn't good. So the options were either to just ignore it or to kind of like whatever. And so something she said like, you people just buy these emails and blast them out to get whatever. And so I felt like I had to at least respond and say, hey, listen, this is where I got your email address. You have a Connecticut business. Your address is public information. And my thing wasn't like sales, or it wasn't,
Yeah.
it
No,
wasn't no
you
attachments, no crazy. Followed all the, the protocols of the Can Spam Act. They unsubscribe at the bottom. We honor that. And all that kind of stuff. So I just said, hey, listen, this is where we got your stuff and whatever. But in the process of that, I looked at her LinkedIn profile only because I was curious, like what her business was. It had a very generic name, and it was like, Northshire Consulting or some silly name like that told you nothing. So so I so I checked her out on LinkedIn, and then she emailed me back and said, "Oh, so now you're stalking me on LinkedIn. You're even like a bigger dirtbag than I thought you were." And I was so then again, I didn't want to leave that hanging. I was like, "No, actually, I just looked at your LinkedIn to see if there was, sort of an error in the system or whatever, or if you didn't have a Connecticut business." So that's kind of ended there, and that was fine. And then so then I was on vacation, and she had called me, and obviously I didn't recognize the number. And so she called me and apologized and said I was having a bad day, and I get a ton of spam emails and whatever. And so she left a voicemail for me. So I called her back immediately and said, I don't accept these unsolicited phone calls on my voicemail. Your
Did
conduct
you?
is
You didn't tell me that.
I didn't do that.
Oh
No.
my God, that would have been wonderful.
That would have been pretty. People like you just pull off numbers from your email list and fill up people's voicemail. And I'm on vacation, and your voicemail prevented me from getting important voice. Now, that would have been funny. I did not
So
do that.
moral of the story was you took
Yeah, good.
publicly
Happy
available
ending.
information, you sent valued information to
Mhm.
her. She was having a bad day. Your number came up. She responded in the negative aggressive to you, as we would expect Brian Williams of Northshire Consulting to do. He took a very professional and high road response. You did stay engaged. You didn't climb in the hole and
No.
cower, which is awesome. You said, hey, here's where this is where your information is leaking,
Yeah.
or and now you continue to you educated her twice,
Mhm.
and then
Well, so
um
actually 3 times. I'll finish with the happiest of happy
oh,
endings.
sorry, I didn't mean, sorry, I was just trying to
Well,
kind of.
maybe not the happiest of happy endings, but from an email perspective, maybe the happiest. So I actually, so when she left me the voicemail apologizing and complaining about all the spam she gets, I actually sent her an email with a couple ideas to like reduce spam, and I sent her a couple links from of like how to reduce your spam and something like that. So like just is I said this will create the other way. It might prevent you from getting some stuff that you want, but you can, obviously, and you can set up in Outlook, you can set up the rules. So if it has the word, unsubscribe as part of a link, then
Oh
it's
wow,
coming
you
from one of
really
these.
educated her. Wow.
Yes, I said that way, if it comes. I said you can even put the keywords in like a MailChimp or Cons, and if those come in as a link, it automatically gets forwarded. I said don't forward it to your spam. You can create a new folder called for review, and then maybe you check it every Friday or something like that. So I actually gave her some tips, and that's where it ended. So that
I
was
love
that.
it. I absolutely love it. I've been in business for almost 20 years, so like I definitely have a couple stories where a negative response from a client lead or prospect, you could kind of react to that and you, it's a choice, you react negatively, or you don't react, or you react
Yeah.
positively. I was hoping to hear that you had a meeting with her or something, but
No.
I have converted angry grams into clients,
Sure. Yeah.
because I know that I've been the angry gram myself. I know that I've had bad days. I know I have, and you know good people doing good business, I mean, is kind of what it's all about. And
And if you're
that's
doing any
cool.
sort of email or any sort of, it's no different than I don't do a lot of really any cold calling anymore. But if you're going to make 100 calls, in a day, you know what those numbers are. I mean, you can, you're going to talk to 20, you're going to maybe book a couple of appointments, but you're going to get 3 or 4 people who hang up on you, and it's not. You
Yeah,
can't let that reflect on you. That's on them for,
right.
you know. But
Good story. I love it.
yeah, no, that was a good one. So, all right, let's see what's happening in your world.
Oh, yeah, where do I begin? So we have succeeded in strengthening our internal marketing team, and we're really starting to hit our stride. What's really interesting is concurrently, we're in a really unique position where I'm able to build a marketing team for our own needs. Um, but we're also able to resell those services to our clients, because
Right.
we're an IT services and consulting company, and it is always a short leap for a client to go like, geez, I'm really struggling with my current web developer or web resource. Do you guys do websites? And
Mhm.
that is always the question. Do you guys do websites? And for years, we kind of went from like bringing it in house and outsourcing it or referring it out, and we kind of played around with that. But we're really starting to. It seems like we may actually build out like an actual line of business with our
Mhm.
digital marketing service. That's what it looks like in the direction we're going, which is really exciting. Because because we really did the IT service and consulting work that we do for our clients is specific to the servers and the applications and the databases and the support and desktop support and things like that. But it's always been a pain of mine, because when the call comes in, hey, do you guys do websites? I really hate not bringing value and help to our clients, so I'm really just excited about this really solidifying in-house. Gives me tighter control over the quality and the experience that our clients are having. And then what's really exciting is it's a twofer for us, because we get to benefit from these resources and this empowerment internally. So we're kind of hitting our stride on that. And in a way, to any non-clients out there, even clients, actually, I feel like we're loading a very large cannon very slowly right now. So we're building some processes, we're building our offerings, and like I said, we're going to be doing this internally, and it all amounts to we're going to be putting out new web content. We're going to be putting out, new email, social campaigns. The one thing that we're really leaning into is we really are going to start. At one point, you'll probably see the switch over, and you'll say, "Oh, that's what Eric was talking about." But we're working aggressively towards changing our outbound messaging on social, email, that sort of thing, from being kind of self-promotional,
right,
to value information. Like we want to educate and support people as our natural default touch point. Yes, we're going to have self-serving things, but that's kind of all we are doing right now. Besides, we do security alerts and some company news and things like that. Most of our social posts and outbound stuff is like self-promotional, which we're just moving aggressively away from that. And I'm really excited about that. And in order to do that, it's really a content machine you have to build. You have to draft a creative thought that is useful to somebody, basically. Go ahead.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from the questions you get from clients, right? Because you're trying to dictate out what's clients on your. But if you start, keep a notepad by your desk and just write down all the client questions, that's your content.
That's exactly right. That is exactly
right. That's the theme, right?
Yep, that is exactly right. The problem is right now is we don't have any shortage of content themes. It's the content production that's the heavy lift. The other problem too is having a marketing strategy, or I should be more specific, a campaign strategy. How do you take this value and how do you disseminate it in a way that you can capitalize on it, right? Because the idea is you create this valued content that says that educates, informs, and strengthens your target market. They view that coming from you. Okay, you're the subject matter expert. Let me bring you in and to help me in the areas that you can help me. You know what I mean? Because you've just fostered trust in me because of the stuff that you're putting out. So like you have to come up with a model that allows you to draft this content and then deliver it in a way that you can capitalize on those clients who want to kind of drive inbound to you as a result of that offering. If you just keep putting stuff out there with no breadcrumbs to get home, you know what I mean? You're kind of spinning your wheels on both sides. So it's like if you're putting bad content out there that's not offering value, even if you have a path inbound, there's there's really no incentive for them to want to come inbound to you. If you start writing really good content and helping and useful information, then that builds in that strength and that relationship, but yet you don't have a path for them to come inbound. I mean, I know that sounds kind of trite in a way, but it does require some level of thinking and planning and conceptualizing. And then the other thing too is you really want to build a model that's like easily reproducible. And so that's what I've been working on too. Our video channel, we have put out. We're still recording content slowly. The summer kind of trailed off because I had a 2-week COVID thing, and we had some travel and the kids. So summer slowed down for me. but I do have a good list of guests for our video. And my latest efforts that I started in the early spring, which is to start building a vendors list
Yeah.
to maintain. I don't know if did I tell you about that?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So one
Maybe
thing that
not
I
to the full
didn't do
extent, but
well
yeah.
over say again.
Yeah, maybe not to the full extent of what you're doing, but yeah.
So basically, we have a lot of vendors that we can co-market with, that we can basically co-market with. And over the years, I just never capitalized on those relationships, and mostly because I didn't have the time to do that. So I built the model to curate in my CRM my vendors that I'm partnered with, and maybe not officially partnered with, but still operating in the same space. So I'm making all of these relationships, and I'm reaching out to them regularly with the CRM. And as a result of that, have now been a guest speaker on various YouTube channels and podcasts and things, guest blogger. So that is starting to actually gain a little bit of momentum.
Yeah, I like that, and pretty. Yeah, I mean, not too dissimilar of some of the ideas that I've kicked around, like my mutual fund wholesalers and ETF wholesalers. That obviously there's, you got 30,000 mutual funds and another, I don't know, 8 or 10,000 ETFs, and run by various companies, but they're always, calling and trying to get me to use their products and whatnot. Pretty similar to your setup, but it's, so they'll say, hey, we want to, talk to you about our fund for 20 minutes. And I just convert those now and say, hey, we're doing a lot of our content, one to many. So why not just record it with me? You can send this to other advisors. You can send this to prospects or whatever. And let's just have our conversation in a public venue and let's get it out there. So,
Yep. Content's king.
Content's king. Yeah, it's like if I'm having these conversations anyway, and not that I'd ever like have this risk with a client, but if a client isn't super active with you and they're like, well, wait, what am I paying you for? I haven't seen you in 6 months or whatever. But if you're like constantly delivering these, like, listen, you have this bond fund, and not only am I researching this bond fund, I'm also researching the other 10,000 alternatives that are out there. I didn't just have to research, your program, in your world, this product. I have to research all the ones that I'm not using as well. So
yeah,
it's a very similar setup there. So yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
good. I'm
cool.
looking forward to those.
Like I said, I feel like I'm loading a very large cannon very
Yeah.
slowly.
I felt that way for like, I got 8 or 10 projects that are like 80% done, and they're all sort of ratcheting up together because for whatever reason, that's the way my brain works. And there's going to be like a quarter or whatever, and like all these projects get finished. And, people like, already now I have people be like, where do you find the time to, do all this stuff? And I'm like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, just wait a couple months,
yeah, exactly. All right, so that's me, that's you, business professional. We usually, to the viewers out there, we usually take the last less time we have of the show, and we go to our Facebook channel or Facebook page, and Brian and I try to curate some news. We have a hard stop at 59 minutes and 59 seconds. Dare we talk about anything in the news?
Yeah, let's pull up and see what we've got here. That's interesting
I
there.
know that it seems like the electric vehicle and transportation sector is just news dominant right now,
No.
and
Yeah.
I just want to let everybody know that I'm cognizant of that. So I don't mean to just post about Tesla and EVs and things like that. But it is kind of what is, the iPhone hasn't changed drastically from model to model. And by the way, Apple has released, has their forthcoming fall iPhone conference coming, but it's not really dominating the headlines because it's like how different is the next iPhone going to be, and so the big change and innovation is coming in the kind of transportation sector. So
Yeah.
thought that's cool.
Yeah, and that's a crossover story, right? I mean, what stocks are the most talked about? Well, it's Elon Musk. It's that sort of stuff.
Is Tesla the most valuable company?
Yeah, bounces back and forth between them and Apple, and
Apple.
yeah. Did you want to touch on the LastPass story? That's a good crossover story too. I know you guys have put some stuff out about it, and
We
I did
can.
copied you as well.
It's I don't know if I don't even know if I posted anything on our tube about it. Do you want to pull up? You want me to do a quick? I always like
I'm
to have
not sure
something.
if we did or not, but I know you posted on LinkedIn about it. But basically, the idea is here. LastPass noted some activity in their servers, and they proactively got the message out about that, even though they didn't necessarily have to do that. If I'm understanding it correctly,
Yeah,
and
so
they're
LastPass is a leading provider of identity management services and basically a password manager. But their big product is the password manager. And so the 25th was Thursday last week. We got customers and partners got notified, basically got emailed this email, and they posted this blog entry that they have identified that, let's see, I want to inform you of a development that we feel is important to share with our community. 2 weeks ago, we detected some unusual activity within portions of the LastPass development environment. After initiating an immediate investigation, we have seen no evidence that this incident involved any access to customer data encrypted password vaults. We have determined that an unauthorized party gained access to portions of the LastPass development environment through a single compromised developer account and took portions of the source code and some proprietary LastPass technical information. Our products and services are operating normally. Go. What do you got? What's your response?
Well, so my response was obviously, it may or may not be a system that I use. It may or may not be one that my clients use, but it seemed to me like it was a proactive something that they didn't necessarily have to do. And most of the comments and stuff that I read, people were applauding them for being forthright. Some other companies have not been forthright about similar situations. So obviously, it's a business they're in, so they kind of had to do that. But it doesn't seem to me like it's a major deal. I mean, sometimes we find out later these things are bigger than we maybe initially thought. But for me, I'm not overly concerned about it. Maybe you have a different take.
I agree with you. I did see in my peer groups on social that there were a lot of like, oh, I'm gonna not partner with them now, and I got to get far away from them. Um, Even in short, I'm not worried about it. LastPass is an established player. I think they're a talented group of people providing a valued service. I'm just trying to speak very fast because I know we have a hard stop here, but um, every company has been hacked or will be hacked.
Mhm.
That is just how it is. So if you measure your involvement with a company, whether they've been hacked or will be hacked, that is really a false flag. It's not the correct metric. I think you should use um, to to um, to evaluate a company. Unfortunately, the metrics you might use are kind of self-reporting from the resource. So like
Mhm.
you signaled like um, people are giving them credit for making this disclosure. They may have to make this disclosure. There may be laws that making them make this disclosure. So whether their hand was forced or not, they made the disclosure, and it was very unemotional. It was very matter of fact. I think it seems pretty accurate. Um, So to me, I just chalk it up as it is what it is, or it's just another Thursday.
Mhm.
Um, that's really kind of all it is to me. I hate to say it's like a nothing burger, but it's kind of a nothing burger, like
Yeah. Um, yeah, and then unrelated to this, please don't ever, whatever business you're in, please don't ever brag about not being hacked. I've seen that a couple times, like in the 401k industry. They're like,
it's like
they'll
ringing the dinner
use
bell.
something, yeah, they'll be like, oh, our security is whatever, and we've been without incident. It's like the running joke, like in the warehouse, it's been 93 days since the last. It's like, please do not ever do that. Any company in industry, you're just putting a target on your back, and it's only a matter of time.
I wish we had more time because we could talk about this O'Dowd versus Tesla battle. You guys do some research on it if you want, but basically, this guy O'Dowd owns a software company that sells autonomous driving software to the military and others. And he claims to be unhackable software. And Teslas need to be taken off the road because their full self-driving beta is killing people and that sort of thing. So that's that guy. That's that guy doing that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to debate the validity of this right now in 3 minutes, but
Yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
mean,
the LifeLock guy that used to drive the
the
truck around
LifeLock
with a
guy,
Social Security number on the side, right?
and then got
Same sort of
hacked like
thing.
that weekend, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, hacking is here to stay. The evaluation is, do you in your unprofessional and unqualified perspective feel like the companies that you're engaging with, do you feel like they are doing the best that they can to keep you safe and to mitigate their risks and your risks? That is as good as it gets. I hire attorneys professionally and personally, unfortunately in some cases, and when one of my attorneys asks me to send something that's sensitive in unencrypted email, it's cringeworthy. And
Mhm.
I used to send responses to them like, that's inappropriate, why are you asking me for that information to that channel? But then I see it over and over again. I see our own clients doing things like that, and it's like, um, the law firm is providing me a greater good than me to spank them for what is really a common error.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like your choice to throw the baby out with the bathwater if you want. And I'm not trying to preserve LastPass reputation. I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to help people kind of like keep their feet planted on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, even my
Right.
colleagues who are like, oh, I was going to partner with them. One guy said, I was going to partner with them this week. I'm so glad I didn't get that application out yet. And I'm like, you're supposed to be the talented resource that knows that's an irrational statement. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I feel bad for your clients that you're advising, because
Yeah.
that's just foolish.
Well, that's yeah, and it relates to my world. Like, oh, I was gonna invest for my clients who are gonna retire in 40 years, and the market's down this week. Maybe I shouldn't do it. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Same
Right.
sort of mindset, You
Yeah.
can't let something that happened the last 2 weeks affect what's the right business decision for the next 10 years.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and the best feature about it, to me at least, any of these password managers is the ability to, you can create your own password individually based on different varying lengths or whatever. But anyway, up against you can so Brian Williams from Northshire
Are you
Consulting
taking
is
us out?
our
Okay.
yeah. Northshire Consulting, northshireconsulting.com, online social media handles, 401k and beyond, Facebook group, YouTube channel, some other stuff coming along those lines. There's the website with all the social media channels up there. You can send us a message, and don't send me any unsecured documents. That
Right.
is something
Send Brian your bank statements right in his contact form right here.
yeah, do not do that. Um, yeah, I do actually have to put a link in there for my secure file system where people can upload stuff.
Yes, that would be great.
Usually people won't cold upload documents, but I guess it's possible, so I should have that on there.
Yep.
But
That's a good
anyway,
resource.
what's going on,
All
EVERNET?
right. So, yeah, you're watching Finance and Technology Insights with Brian and Eric. Find us on YouTube. Find us on Facebook. I am your co-host, Eric Buhrendorf, CEO of EVERNET Consulting. If you're interested in having a conversation with me about your technology management, leadership guidance, or whatever, go to evernetco.com and schedule a discovery call right on the scroll down to the bottom, and you can schedule a discovery call right with me personally to talk about what pains you.
We got a long weekend next week, so we'll decide if we want to record Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll figure that out. But
Yes, the 6th. Right. I should be good for the 6th. The 13th is going to be tough. I have a conference in DC that day.
Okay. Yeah, the 6 looks okay for me, but I know coming back after a long weekend sometimes that's an issue. But yeah, we'll figure it out and let you know.
I love it. This was
All
a
right.
good one, man. Number
See ya.
30 in the bag. Have a good week.